She scrubbed his floors by day and dismantled his empire by night, but when he ripped out her teeth for daring to speak the truth, he had no idea he'd just unleashed the woman who owned everything he'd ever stolen. Welcome to Kaysmart Mythic Tales, where we bring you the most gripping African family dramas that will leave you breathless. Thank you for your incredible support. You are the reason we keep bringing these powerful stories to life. Before we dive into the story, kindly subscribe, drop a comment below, and tell us where you're watching from. Are you Team Justice or Team Revenge? Let us know. Now let's get into this explosive story of betrayal, hidden power, and the ultimate takedown, where a poor village wife turns out to be the silent architect of her husband's destruction. Buckle up. He forced his poor wife to work all night, unaware she was pulling out her own heart to save him. Pack your things and get out of my house, you village rat. The crystal champagne flute shattered against the marble floor, 3 inches from Efua's bare feet. She didn't flinch anymore. After 4 years of marriage to Babajide, she had learned that flinching only made him angrier. Babajide, please, she whispered, her hand instinctively covering her mouth. The investors are still downstairs. Let them hear. His designer agbada swirled as he grabbed her wrist, yanking her hand away from her face. Let them see what I wake up to every morning. A woman who can't even afford to fix her own teeth. The penthouse suite of the Okonkwo Tower, 27 floors above Lagos, suddenly felt smaller than the single room she'd grown up in back in Abeokuta. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Lekki's glittering skyline mocked her. All those lights. All that power. And here she stood, 28 years old, wearing a faded wrapper because Babajide said designer clothes were wasted on village girls. Her front teeth had been knocked out 6 months ago. An accident, Babajide had told the dentist. A fall down the stairs. The dentist had looked at her with pity, the same look everyone gave her at society weddings when Babajide introduced her as, my charity case wife. I'll finish the reports tonight, Efua said quietly, bending to pick up the broken glass. The Malaysian deal needs. The Malaysian deal? Babajide laughed, pouring himself another cognac. You think you understand business? You, who couldn't even finish secondary school. What he didn't know, what no one knew, was that Efua had graduated top of her class from the London School of Economics. Under a different name. In a different life. Before she'd made the decision that would either save him or destroy them both. Babajide, your blood pressure medication. He slapped the pill bottle from her hand. Don't touch my things with your dirty fingers. You've been in the market again, haven't you? Embarrassing me in front of my mother's friends. Mama Nike. His mother had made it her mission to remind Efua daily that she wasn't good enough for the Okonkwo name. That girl with the missing teeth and cheap perfume, she'd called Efua last Sunday at church. Right in front of the pastor's wife. I was buying ingredients for your mother's birthday dinner, Efua said. The egusi soup she likes. My mother deserves better than your village cooking. Babajide threw his glass at the wall. She deserves a daughter-in-law who knows which fork to use. Who doesn't shame us at every gala. The intercom buzzed. Kofi, Babajide's business partner, sounded anxious. Babajide, the Chinese delegation is asking for the projection files. The ones Efua was working on. Babajide's eyes narrowed. For a moment, just a flicker, Efua saw something like need cross his face. He needed those files. Needed the deal. Needed her. But pride was a disease in the Okonkwo family. Tell them we'll reschedule, Babajide said into the intercom. Then to Efua. You have until midnight to finish everything. The Malaysian merger, the Chinese projections, and my laundry. All of it. It's already 9 p.m. Then you'd better work faster. He straightened his agbada, checking his reflection in the mirror. I'm going to Quilox with real women. Women who know how to dress. How to speak. Women who don't make me ashamed to be seen with them. The door slammed. Efua waited until she heard the private elevator descend before she moved to the hidden panel behind the bedroom closet. Her fingers trembled as she entered the code. Her real birthday, not the fake one on their marriage certificate. The panel slid open, revealing 3 laptops, 2 burner phones, and a wall of evidence that would make Babajide Okonkwo wish he'd never heard the name Efua Adebayo. Except Efua Adebayo didn't exist. Not anymore. The woman he'd married, the woman he humiliated daily, was actually Folasade Martins, former CEO of Martins Global Holdings, the investment firm that had mysteriously collapsed 5 years ago, taking billions with it. The same firm Babajide had built his empire on top of, using her stolen algorithms and client lists. She touched her empty gum line where her front teeth used to be. He'd taken those from her the night she'd tried to tell him the truth. The night she'd finally decided that saving him wasn't worth losing herself. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. The board meeting is set for Friday. Are you ready to take back what's yours? Efua. No, Folasade. Looked at her reflection in the darkened window. A woman with missing teeth, wearing a faded wrapper, bags under her eyes from countless sleepless nights. A woman the world saw as powerless. They had no idea. She opened her laptop and began typing. Not the files Babajide had demanded, but something else. A detailed report that would be delivered to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in exactly 72 hours. Outside, Lagos slept. But Efua was wide awake, pulling out the last pieces of her heart to set the trap that would destroy the man she'd once loved enough to erase herself for. What would you do if the person you sacrificed everything for was the one who took everything from you? The marriage that destroyed her was built on her own success. But he never asked where the money came from. Comment below. Would you stay silent or burn it all down? The smell of akara frying in palm oil always brought Efua back to the before time. She stood in Mama Rashida's kitchen at 6 a.m., her hands working the bean mixture with practiced rhythm. The old woman's buka sat tucked between a mechanic shop and a fabric store in Surulere. Worlds away from Lekki's glamour, but closer to the truth than anywhere else in Lagos. You come here too early again, Mama Rashida said, not looking up from her pot of steaming eco. That man's still treating you like house girl? Efua didn't answer. Some questions were rhetorical in Lagos. Everyone knew how Babajide Okonkwo treated his wife. It was performance art at this point. The successful man and his unfortunate spouse. Mama, I need to ask you something, Efua said quietly, forming another akara ball. About the year I disappeared. The wooden spoon stopped mid-stir. Mama Rashida had been Folasade Martins' cook, back when Folasade had a Banana Island mansion and a Bentley with a driver. Back when she'd been 23 years old and running a multi-billion naira investment empire her father built. Back before the scandal, the accusations, the night everything burned. That woman is dead, Mama Rashida finally said. You told me so yourself. I need to know if anyone's been asking about her. About me? Why you digging up corpses, my daughter? Because Babajide's Malaysian deal was actually Folasade's Malaysian deal. The algorithm he was selling to the Chinese consortium? Folasade had written it 6 years ago. The property portfolio that made him Lagos royalty? Built on land Folasade had purchased under shell companies before the world thought she'd fled to Dubai with investor money. She hadn't fled. She'd buried herself. Changed her name, her face, thank you, medical tourism in Thailand, her entire existence. All to protect the man she'd loved. The junior analyst named Babajide who'd whispered sweet promises about building something clean together, something untouched by her father's corrupt legacy. He'd asked her to disappear. To let him start fresh with her assets. To trust him. She'd been 23 and in love. The two stupidest conditions for making life decisions. There was a man, Mama Rashida said slowly, pouring OG into plastic bags. 3 days ago. Igbo man. Very sharp. Asking about Folasade Martins. Asking if she had family still alive. Efua's hands stilled. What did you tell him? I'm old, but I'm not stupid. I told him Folasade is dead and gone. That her spirit drowned in that bar beach where they found her clothes. The fake suicide had been Babajide's idea. They need closure, he'd said, holding her face between his hands. Let Folasade die so we can live. Did he believe you? Efua asked. He left his card. Mama Rashida pulled a crumpled business card from her wrapper pocket. Said if I remember anything to call. Said there's people who want answers about where the money went. Efua took the card. Chukwudin Wosu, Senior Investigator, EFCC. Her blood turned cold. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. She'd planned to go to them on her terms, with her evidence organized like the CEO she used to be. But if they were already sniffing around, if they were connecting dots. When is your husband's big party? Mama Rashida asked. The one he's been telling everyone about? Friday night. His mother's 70th birthday. Governor's coming. Half of Banana Island will be there. Efua's voice sounded distant to her own ears. He's announcing his political campaign. Running for Senate. Senator Babajide Okonkwo. Built on stolen wealth and a wife he kept hidden like a shameful secret. You planning something? Mama Rashida said. Not a question. Efua shaped the last acroball, watching oil bubble around it. You remember what my father used to say? Before he died. The best revenge is success. But my daughter, Mama Rashida gripped her wrist. That man? Babajide? He's not your father's type of enemy. Your father's enemies fought with money and lawyers. This one will fight with his hands and his mother's juju. The teeth. Always back to the teeth. I have something, Efua said softly. Something he doesn't know about. Something even Folasade didn't know she had. In the weeks after she died, while Babajide was consolidating her assets, while he was telling everyone how grief-stricken he was over his girlfriend's suicide, Efua had done something. One final act of the old Folasade. She'd recorded everything. Every document, every password, every conversation. And she'd sent it all to a lawyer in London with instructions. If I don't check in every 6 months, release everything. She'd missed the last check-in. On purpose. Somewhere in London, a manila envelope was being prepared for delivery to exactly the right people. You need to leave this house, Mama Rashida said urgently. Before Friday. Before whatever you're planning. I can't leave yet. Efua removed her wrapper, revealing the housegirl uniform Babajide made her wear when his friends visited. Plain black dress, white apron, no jewelry. He needs to see what he created. Needs to understand what he's been sleeping next to for 4 years. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mama Nike. My son says you didn't finish his laundry last night. You're becoming more useless every day. This is why barren women shouldn't marry into good families. Barren. Another lie. Efua had been 3 months pregnant when Babajide pushed her down the stairs. When she lost the baby and 2 front teeth in one terrible night. When he'd stood over her bleeding body and said, maybe God is telling us something. What you need from me? Mama Rashida asked. Friday night. During the party. I need you to do exactly what I say. Efua pulled out a list from her apron pocket. Addresses, times, names. The choreography of a downfall. This is dangerous, Mama Rashida whispered. So was trusting him. Efua tied her headscarf, the kind Babajide said made her look too local, and headed for the door. She had morning market runs to do. Had to buy the special imported beef Mama Nike wanted for the party. Had to play the role for 72 more hours. But as she stepped into Suriler's morning chaos, the Okada drivers shouting, the pure water sellers singing their prices, the hustle of a Lagos that Babajide had forgotten existed, Efua felt something she hadn't felt in 4 years. Power. Not the kind you bought or inherited. The kind you took back. She erased herself to save him. But some ghosts refuse to stay buried. Drop a ghost if you've ever had to become someone else to survive. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you, the future senator of Lagos State, my son, Babajide Okonkwo. The ballroom at Eco Hotel erupted in applause. 200 of Lagos's finest, dripping in gold, wrapped in the most expensive Asoebi money could buy, rose to their feet. The 7-tier cake cost more than most Nigerians earned in a year. The live band transitioned from high life to a gospel remix that had the older women swaying. Efua stood in the corner by the service entrance, holding a tray of champagne flutes. Invisible. Exactly where Babajide wanted her. Darling, come here. Mama Nike beckoned to her son, her gelly towering 2 feet high, encrusted with Swarovski crystals. Tell them about your vision for Lagos. Tell them about the schools, the hospitals. The schools and hospitals Folasade Martins had designed proposals for 6 years ago. The infrastructure plans Babajide now claimed as his own brilliant vision. Efua watched him work the crowd. Handsome in his white agbada with gold embroidery, laughing with the governor, embracing Bishop Adelik. Every inch the self-made man. The poor boy from Ajagunal who'd risen through pure determination and smart investments. Another lie. Babajide's family owned half of Ikoyi. His humble beginnings were as fabricated as Efua's identity. You! A sharp voice cut through the music. Kofi's wife, Amara, snapped her fingers at Efua. More champagne here. And try not to spill it this time with those shaking hands. Efua moved through the crowd like a ghost. Refilling glasses. Removing empty plates. Being careful not to smile. The missing teeth were Babajide's favorite conversation starter when he wanted sympathy. My wife, he'd told the British High Commissioner last month, had a tragic accident. I've offered to pay for implants, but she's too proud. Village mentality, you understand. The village mentality that had graduated summa cum laude from LSE. The pride that had once negotiated deals with Chinese state banks. Attention, everyone. Babajide climbed the stage, microphone in hand. Tonight is not just about celebrating my incredible mother. Mama Nike dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief, playing her part perfectly. But about announcing the future of our great state. With your support, we will fight corruption. Efua's phone vibrated in her apron pocket. A text from an unknown number. Package delivered. EFCC received files 20 minutes ago. Investigator en route. Her heart hammered. Too soon. They were supposed to wait until after the speech. And ensure that every child in Lagos, rich or poor, has access to quality education. The ballroom doors burst open. 6 men in dark suits strode in, led by the Igbo man from Mama Rashida's description. Chukwudi Nwosu, EFCC senior investigator, his ID held high. The music died. 200 guests turned. Babajide Okonkwo, Chukwudi's voice cut through the shocked silence. You are under arrest for money laundering, fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes. The champagne flute slipped from Efua's hand, shattering on marble. But this time, everyone was watching Babajide. This is absurd. Babajide laughed, but his voice cracked. Governor, tell them, this is political persecution. My opponent's trying to. We have evidence, Chukwudi said calmly, pulling out a tablet. Extensive evidence. Dating back 6 years. To the collapse of Martins Global Holdings. Mama Nike gasped. Several guests pulled out their phones, already recording. This would be on Instagram before dessert was served. I don't know what you're talking about. Babajide's eyes darted around the room, landing on Kofi. Tell them. Tell them about our business. Sir, we have recordings, another EFCC agent said, stepping forward. Conversations between you and Folasade Martins. The woman you claimed died by suicide. The woman whose company you systematically dismantled for parts. Folasade is dead. Babajide shouted. She jumped at Bar Beach. Everyone knows. Everyone knows what you told them, Chukwudi said. But DNA evidence from the clothes found at the beach? Not hers. Bank transfers made after her supposed death? To accounts you controlled. And most interesting. He smiled coldly. A witness who's been living in your house for 4 years. Every head in the ballroom turned. To Efua. She stood frozen by the service entrance, her hands trembling. This wasn't the plan. She was supposed to remain hidden, to let the evidence speak for itself. To disappear again once justice was served. Her. Mama Nike shrieked. That useless girl? She's nobody. She can't even what, Mama Nike? Efua heard herself speak. Her voice. Not the meek whisper Babajide had trained into her, but the voice that used to command boardrooms. Can't even run a multi-billion naira company? Can't even design the algorithms your son is selling? Can't even be smart enough to document everything? The room went deathly silent. Babajide stared at her like he was seeing a ghost. Efua, what are you? My name, she said, removing her headscarf, standing straighter, is not Efua Adebayo. She reached into her apron and pulled out a second phone, the one Babajide didn't know existed. The one with the recordings, the photos, the emails. My name is Folasade Martins. And 4 years ago, I made the mistake of loving you enough to let you take everything from me. My company. My reputation. My identity. She touched her mouth, where teeth should be. Even these. You took these from me when I finally tried to tell you the truth. When I begged you to stop stealing from the people who trusted us. You're insane. Babajide lurched toward her, but the EFCC agents blocked him. This woman is sick. She's been obsessed with Folasade since. Since you murdered her? Chukwudi asked mildly. Or since she faked her death at your request, trusting you'd build something honest with her assets? Efua walked forward, each step measured. The crowd parted. Designer gowns and igbadas rustling away from the housegirl in the plain black dress. I have recordings, Babajide. Every conversation we've had for 4 years. Every slap. Every insult. Every time you used my work and called it yours. Every time you told people I was stupid, ignorant, beneath you. She stopped 3 feet from the stage. From the man who'd held her at night and beaten her in the morning. But the best part? She smiled, and even without front teeth, it was terrifying. The Malaysian deal you're so proud of? The one that's supposed to fund your Senate campaign? I coded a backdoor into the algorithm. Every transaction routes through an account the EFCC now controls. Every single naira. Mama Nike collapsed into a chair. The governor quietly slipped toward the exit. Phones were everywhere now. Instagram Live, Snapchat, WhatsApp groups exploding across Lagos. You did this, Babajide whispered, his face gray. You destroyed me. No. Efua's voice was steady. You destroyed yourself. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences. Kofi suddenly stood, his face stricken. Folasade. I didn't know. When he brought you home as his wife, you looked so different. I swear I didn't recognize. You knew, Efua said softly. You helped him empty the company accounts. You helped him sell my client list. You just didn't expect Folasade to be serving you champagne at parties. Mr. Okonkwo, Chukwudi said, producing handcuffs. We need to go. But Babajide wasn't looking at the investigator. He was staring at Efua with something like comprehension finally dawning. The business trips, he said hoarsely. The ones where I left you alone for weeks. You were rebuilding. Documenting. Planning this. I was surviving, Efua corrected. There's a difference. As the EFCC agents led him away, Babajide turned one last time. I loved you. The real you. Folasade. Then you should have let her live, Efua said. Instead of turning her into your housegirl. The ballroom erupted. Guests shouting, cameras flashing. Mama Nike wailing about family honor. Through it all, Efua stood perfectly still. Until she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to find a woman in her 60s, wrapped in elegant purple lace. Dr. Adeyemi, Chancellor of the University of Lagos. One of the women Babajide had specifically invited to witness his political triumph. I knew your father, Dr. Adeyemi said quietly. Folasade. I knew your father. He would be proud of what you've done. And furious about what you've endured. Efua's composure cracked. Just slightly. Just enough. What happens now? She whispered. Dr. Adeyemi squeezed her shoulder. Now? You remember who you are. And you take back everything he stole. But as the EFCC van pulled away with Babajide inside, as the party dissolved into chaos, Efua saw something that made her blood freeze. Mama Nike, standing by the cake table, was on her phone. And she was smiling. Not crying. Not devastated. Smiling. Like a woman who still had cards to play. He built an empire on her back and called her worthless. But every empire needs a foundation. What happens when the foundation decides to crumble? Comment. Would you have revealed yourself or stayed hidden? The detention cell at EFCC headquarters smelled like disinfectant and desperation. Efua sat across from Babajide, separated by bulletproof glass. She'd been summoned here at 3 a.m., 12 hours after the party from hell. Chukwudi had called personally. He's asking for you. Says he has information. But Folasade. A pause. Be careful. Men like him don't surrender easily. Babajide looked smaller somehow. Orange jumpsuit instead of designer Agbada. No gold watch. No commanding presence. Just a man whose entire world had collapsed in one evening. You came, he said, voice hoarse. I shouldn't have. No. A bitter laugh. You should have left me to rot. That would be the smart play. The CEO move. Efua said nothing. Let the silence do the work. An interrogation technique she'd learned from her father. People fill silence with truth. My mother knows, Babajide finally said. About you. About who you really are. She's known for 3 years. The room tilted. What? That's why she hated you so much. Not because you were beneath me, because you were above me. Because everything I have, everything I am, came from stealing from you. He pressed his palm against the glass. She found documents. Papers you'd hidden in the guest room. Your old passport. Medical records from Thailand. Efua's mind raced. The mastectomy documents she'd gotten before the reconstructive surgery. The passport with her old face. She'd thought she'd destroyed everything. When? Her voice cracked. 2 years ago. Maybe longer. She came to me crying, saying we had to deal with this problem before it dealt with us. Babajide's eyes were red-rimmed. I told her to be patient. That you were too broken to be a threat. That I'd made sure you'd never remember who you used to be. The teeth. The beatings. The constant humiliation. Not just cruelty, strategy. She has copies, Babajide continued. Everything. Every document in that EFCC file? She has the originals. And she's planning to use them. Use them how? Efua leaned forward. I've already exposed you. The evidence is with the authorities. Not all of it. Babajide's voice dropped to a whisper. There's evidence you don't know about. Evidence that makes you look guilty too. Her blood went cold. What are you talking about? The night your father died. The car accident on 3rd Mainland Bridge. He wouldn't meet her eyes. It wasn't an accident. The world stopped. Her father, Chief Ademila Martins, had died 6 years ago. Brake failure, the police had said. Tragic accident. She'd been so consumed with grief, with running the company he'd left behind, that she'd never questioned it. You're lying, she whispered. I wish I was. Babajide finally looked at her. My mother arranged it. She was having an affair with your father. Did you know that? For 10 years. He promised to leave your mother, marry her, legitimize me as his heir. But when your mother died of cancer, he changed his mind. Said the Martins' legacy belonged to you. His daughter. Efua felt vomit rise in her throat. No. She killed him, Folasade. And she kept receipts. Messages showing you knew about the affair. Knew your father was going to change his will. Knew you'd lose everything if he remarried. I didn't know. She slammed her hand against the glass. I know. Babajide's voice broke. I know you didn't. But she's been building this narrative for years. Planting evidence. Paying witnesses. And now that you've come forward, now that everyone knows Folasade Martins is alive, she's going to bury you with patricide. The security camera in the corner blinked its red eye. Recording everything. Why are you telling me this? Efua asked. Why warn me? Because. He pressed his forehead against the glass. Because for 2 months after you died, before I knew you were alive, I actually grieved. I actually missed the woman I'd loved. The brilliant, beautiful woman who saw potential in a nobody analyst. And then when you came back as Efua, when you were standing in my house looking so broken, so lost. His voice cracked. I convinced myself it was mercy. That I was protecting you from a world that would crucify you for your father's crimes. That making you small kept you safe. That's not love, Efua said. That's possession. I know. Tears streaked his face. I know that now. But my mother? She doesn't love anything except power. And she will destroy you to keep it. A knock on the glass. Chikwudi gestured. 5 more minutes. Where are the documents? Efua demanded. The ones about my father? Safety deposit box. Union Bank, Victoria Island. Box 2847. Babajide scribbled on the notepad provided. The key is in her bedroom. Inside the small Quran on her nightstand. The one with the green cover. How do I access her house? She's changed all the locks since. The gardener. Emeka. He's been skimming money from her for years. Threatened to expose him. He'll let you in. Babajide slid the paper through the slot. But Folasade, she's not working alone. She has connections. Police commissioners. Judges. People who've been on her payroll since before your father died. Why should I believe you? Efua studied his face, searching for the manipulation she'd fallen for 6 years ago. Why help me now? Because in 3 days, I'll be arraigned. And my lawyer? His laugh was hollow. My lawyer is my mother's first cousin. Everything I tell him goes straight to her. I'm not getting out of this cell, Folasade. But maybe you can. The guard appeared. Time's up. Efua stood, legs unsteady. What do you want in return? Nothing. Babajide pressed his hand to the glass one final time. Except, when this is over, when you've taken back everything you built. Remember that once before I became this, I loved you. The real you. You loved the idea of me, Efua corrected. You never bothered to know who I actually was. She walked out before he could respond. Outside, Lagos was waking up. Danfo buses honking, street vendors arranging their wares, the eternal hustle of Africa's largest city. Somewhere in this chaos, Mama Nike was planning her next move. Efua pulled out her phone. Mama Rashida answered on the first ring. I need you to find someone, Efua said. A gardener named Emeka. Works at the Okonkwo estate in Parkview. That's dangerous territory, my daughter. Everything is dangerous now. Efua flagged down a taxi. But I didn't survive this long to lose to a woman who thinks murder is just another business transaction. Where are you going? To visit an old friend. Someone who knows how to fight dirty. The taxi pulled into traffic, merging into Lagos's morning madness. Through the window, Efua caught her reflection. Gaunt face, missing teeth, eyes that had seen too much. But underneath, still Folasade. Still the woman who'd built empires. And empires, she'd learned, were built on foundations of vengeance just as much as vision. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Your father's lawyer is still alive. Living in London. He has documents too. Documents that prove your mother's death wasn't from cancer. A friend. Efua stared at the screen, her world tilting again. Her mother. The woman who died peacefully in her sleep, or so the doctors had said. The woman whose death had sent her father spiraling into the affair with Mama Nike. How deep did this betrayal go? Driver, she said, change of plans. Take me to the Murtala Muhammad Airport. Airport. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror. You traveling? No, Efua said softly. I'm going hunting. But as the taxi navigated through traffic, she didn't notice the black SUV 3 cars behind. Didn't see the woman in the back seat, Mama Nike, watching through tinted windows, phone pressed to her ear. Follow her, Mama Nike said into the phone. And this time, make sure she actually dies. She thought she'd uncovered the worst betrayal. But some families bury secrets in generations of blood. Drop a broken heart if you've ever discovered your whole life was built on lies. Ms. Martins, if you're watching this recording, it means I'm either dead or you've finally decided to fight back. The video played on a laptop in a Shoreditch cafe, 4,500 miles from Lagos. Efua had landed at Heathrow 6 hours ago, caught the tube into central London, and found the address her mysterious contact had provided, a modest solicitor's office above a Turkish kebab shop. The man on screen was elderly, white-haired, eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. Barrister Edmund Whitmore, her father's Cambridge roommate, his legal counsel for 30 years, the man who drafted every contract for Martins Global Holdings. The man who'd supposedly died of a heart attack 4 years ago. If you're seeing this, the recording continued, then my fail-safe protocol worked. I've been in hiding since 2021, after I discovered what your mother-in-law attempted. I faked my death, much like you did, because Mama Nike made it clear that anyone who knew the truth about your father's death would follow him to the grave. Efua's hands trembled on the coffee cup. Across from her sat a younger man, early 30s, Whitmore's striking features stamped on his face. I'm David. He'd introduced himself at the airport. Edmund's son. He's been waiting for you. Where is he? Efua had asked. Safe house in Kent. But first, you need to see what he's preserved. On screen, Edmund Whitmore opened a manila folder. Your father came to me 3 weeks before he died. He was terrified. Said he'd discovered that Mama Nike, Dorothy Okonkwo, her real name, wasn't just having an affair with him. She was systematically poisoning your mother. The cafe noise faded. Efua heard only the roaring in her ears. Arsenic. Whitmore continued. Small doses over 18 months. Untraceable in the standard tests they ran. Your father had started his own investigation. Hired a private toxicologist, secured hair samples from your mother's hairbrush. The results were conclusive. But before he could go to the authorities, Dorothy made him an offer. The video cut to images, lab reports, photographs, bank statements. She would keep silent about certain financial irregularities at Martins Global if he married her. Made Babajide his legal heir. Split the company 50-50 between you and Babajide. Financial irregularities? Efua whispered. David paused the video. Your father was brilliant, but not clean. He'd been involved in some questionable deals. Oil block acquisitions that circumvented government approval, construction contracts that involved bribes to state officials. Nothing that made him different from most Nigerian billionaires, but enough to destroy his legacy if exposed. And my father refused her terms, Efua said. He did. Told her he'd face the corruption charges rather than let his daughter's inheritance be stolen. So Dorothy killed him. David resumed the video. The brake line failure, Whitmore explained on screen, was executed by a mechanic in Festac town. Name: Vincent Okoro. Dorothy paid him 2 million naira, approximately £3,500. I tracked him down. Got his confession on tape. But before I could bring it to the police, my office was ransacked. Files stolen. My paralegal, a young woman named Chidera, was found dead in her apartment. Suicide, they called it. Efua closed her eyes. How many bodies had Mama Nike left behind? I went underground, Whitmore continued. Left instructions with my son. If Folasade Martins ever resurfaced, he was to bring her here. Because Dorothy made one critical mistake. She kept records. Insurance policies, she called them. Proof of every crime, every payment, every murder. She keeps them in Nigeria, but I managed to photograph most of them before I disappeared. The screen filled with images. Bank transfers. Handwritten notes in Mama Nike's spidery script. Photographs of meetings with uniformed police officials. And most damning, a ledger detailing payments to a doctor at Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Dr. Alyamide Benson, Whitmore said. The oncologist who treated your mother. Dorothy paid him 5 million naira to misdiagnose your mother's poisoning as aggressive cancer. To administer treatments that actually accelerated her death. Efua couldn't breathe. Her mother's final months, the chemo that made her worse, the radiation that seemed to burn her from the inside, the doctors who kept saying the cancer was unusually aggressive. Murder. Slow, calculated murder. The doctor is still alive, David said quietly. Still practicing in Lagos. Still on Mama Nike's payroll. My father thought you'd want to know. She killed my mother. Efua's voice was hollow. Framed it as cancer. Then killed my father when he discovered the truth. Then convinced her son to steal my company and gaslight me into believing I was nothing. Yes. David pulled out another folder. But here's what we've learned in the 4 years you've been underground. Dorothy isn't just a murderer. She's been building a criminal enterprise. Using Babajide's legitimate businesses as fronts for money laundering, drug trafficking, even human trafficking. The Malaysian deal your husband, ex-husband, was so proud of? It's not tech investment. It's a pipeline for smuggling heroin from Southeast Asia into West Africa. The coffee turned to acid in Efua's stomach. The algorithm I designed was repurposed. The tracking software for investment portfolios became tracking software for shipments. The encrypted communication protocols for client confidentiality became encrypted communication for drug dealers. David's expression was grim. You built the infrastructure for one of the largest trafficking operations in West Africa. Unknowingly, of course. But try explaining that to Interpol. Interpol. Dorothy's network spans 12 countries. The EFCC investigation in Lagos is just the tip. Interpol has been watching the Okonkwo organization for 2 years. When you exposed Babajide, you didn't just destroy one man's political career. You triggered an international investigation. Efua stood abruptly, knocking over her coffee. David caught it before it spilled. I need air, she said. Wait. He grabbed her wrist gently. There's more. More. She laughed hysterically. What more could there possibly be? Your teeth. David's voice was careful. The night Babajide knocked them out. You told the doctors it was a fall. But the medical scans show something else. Something the dentist noted but didn't report because he was afraid. He pulled up images on his phone. X-rays. Dental records. The force required to remove 2 front teeth like that. It wasn't a single blow. It was prolonged trauma. 20, maybe 30 impacts. The kind of damage that suggests torture. Efua finished numbly. He tortured me. He held you down and systematically broke your teeth. One by one. The emergency room doctor who treated you flagged it as potential domestic violence, but the report was buried. Buried by a police commissioner on Dorothy's payroll. Efua sank back into her chair. The cafe continued around her, tourists ordering flat whites, students on laptops, the espresso machine hissing. Normal life. While she sat here learning her entire existence had been orchestrated by a woman who collected murders like other people collected art. What does Whitmore want from me? She asked finally. To testify. In London, where Dorothy can't reach you. Where her police commissioners and judges have no jurisdiction. Interpol wants to bring her down, but they need a witness who can connect all the pieces. Someone who lived inside the organization. Who knows the codes, the passwords, the account numbers. I'd have to stay here. In London. In hiding again. Protective custody, David corrected. But yes. 4 months. Maybe years, depending on how long the trial takes. Back to being a ghost. Back to erasing herself. And if I refuse? Efua asked. If I go back to Lagos and handle this myself? David's expression was answer enough. She wouldn't survive a week. My father wants to meet you, he said. Before you decide. He's prepared a comprehensive file. Everything he's gathered on Dorothy. Everything you'd need to destroy her completely. But he wants to give it to you in person. Efua looked out the cafe window at London's grey morning. Somewhere in this city, a man who'd faked his own death was waiting to meet the woman who'd done the same. Somewhere in Lagos, a monster in designer lace was planning her next murder. And somewhere between those 2 points, Efua had to decide. Become a witness in someone else's justice system, or return home and burn everything to the ground herself. Her phone buzzed. A message from Mama Rashida. The gardener talked. I have the key. But child, people are watching your house. Serious people. Come home carefully. Another message, from Chukwudi at the EFCC. Babajide Okonkwo was attacked in custody. He's in hospital. Critical condition. His mother posted bail for herself this morning. Judge cited, insufficient evidence. She's free. A third message, from an unknown number. I know you're in London. I know you're with Whitmore's son. Come home. Folasade. Let's finish this face to face. Like the daughters we both never had. Mama Nike. Efua stared at the screen. The audacity. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of a woman who'd murdered her way to power now playing the role of maternal figure. I need to see your father, Efua said. Now. David checked his watch. The safe house is 2 hours away. But Folasade, once you hear what else he has to say, once you see the full scope of what Dorothy's built, there's no going back. You'll be in this fight forever. I've been in this fight since the day she poisoned my mother, Efua said, standing. I just didn't know who the enemy was. They left the cafe, merging into London's crowds. Behind them, unnoticed, a woman in a headscarf lowered her phone. She'd recorded the entire conversation. Within the hour, the recording would be in Lagos. In Mama Nike's hands. You look just like your mother when she was dying. Mama Nike sat in the VIP lounge at Murtala Muhammad Airport, draped in white lace, the color of mourning, of purity, of carefully constructed innocence. She sipped Chapman through a straw, her galley modest today, almost humble. Efua had landed 30 minutes ago. Had walked straight past baggage claim, past the taxi touts and currency exchangers, following the text instructions that had pinged her phone the moment the plane touched Nigerian soil. Arrivals Hall. VIP Lounge. Come alone or Mama Rashida's grandchildren learn what real suffering means. Now they sat across from each other. 2 women who'd loved the same men, who'd destroyed each other in the process, who'd both learned that power in Lagos was written in blood and sealed with silence. "How did you know I'd come back?" Efua asked quietly. "Because you're not your father's daughter for nothing." Mama Nike's smile was almost fond. He never could resist a fight, even when losing was inevitable. Around them, the lounge hummed with Lagos's elite. Oil executives, politicians, Nollywood stars. No one paid attention to two women having tea. Just another mother-in-law and daughter-in-law chat. So ordinary. So Lagos. "Edmund Whitmore is alive," Efua said. "No point in pretense now." "I know. I've always known." Mama Nike dabbed her lips with a napkin. "I let him live because dead lawyers create investigations. Living lawyers in hiding create only whispers. And whispers, my dear, are easy to discredit. He has evidence. Proof of everything you've done. He has copies. I have originals. And in Nigeria, original documents signed by original judges carry more weight than photocopies held by a British fugitive." Mama Nike leaned forward. "Do you know how many police commissioners attend my prayer meetings? How many judges call me mummy? How many senators owe their positions to my late-night phone calls?" "You're not invincible," Efua said. "The EFCC will find that their star witness, my son, has developed sudden amnesia. Trauma from his brutal attack in custody." Mama Nike's eyes glittered. "The doctors say it's very serious. He may never remember the accusations he made. Tragic, really. The stress of false allegations can break even strong men." "The attack. Of course. Not random violence. Calculated silencing. You had him beaten. I had him protected." The correction was sharp. "From himself. From his weakness. From the woman who manipulated him into betraying his own mother." Efua's laugh was bitter. "Is that the story you're telling? That I'm the villain? It's the story everyone will believe. Poor Babajide, seduced by a master con artist. A woman who faked her own death, stole corporate secrets, then resurfaced years later as a housemaid to destroy the man who'd tried to save her company from collapse." Mama Nike's voice carried perfectly, loud enough for nearby tables to overhear. "The judges will be very sympathetic. Especially after they hear about your mental illness. The delusions. The false accusations against respected members of society. I have recordings. Recordings can be fabricated. In fact, my IT experts will testify that yours definitely were. Deep fakes. I believe they call them now. So easy to manipulate audio when you have the right software." Mama Nike sipped her drink. Software that, coincidentally, Martins Global Holdings specialized in before its tragic collapse. Every move blocked. Every piece of evidence poisoned before it could be used. "Why am I here?" Efua asked tiredly. "Why not just kill me like you killed my parents?" "Because killing you makes you a martyr. A ghost that haunts my family forever." Mama Nike pulled out an envelope. "No, my dear. I have something better in mind." She slid the envelope across the table. Inside, a passport, bank statements, and a one-way ticket to Sao Paulo, Brazil. $20 million, Mama Nike said. Deposited in an account only you can access. A new identity, expertly crafted, I assure you. And a private jet leaving in 2 hours. You want me to disappear. I want you to live. Truly live. For the first time since your father trapped you in his corrupt empire. No company to run. No husband to save. No revenge to plot. Just Folasade, or whoever you decide to be. Finally free. Efua stared at the documents. A new face smiled from the passport photo. Digital work, but flawless. Maria Santos. Brazilian national. No connection to Nigeria to Martins to any of this. And if I refuse? Mama Nike's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered behind her eyes. Then the evidence I've compiled, evidence of your involvement in your father's corruption, your mother's death, your deliberate destruction of Martins Global to hide embezzlement. All of it goes to Interpol. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison. Nigerian prison first, then extradition to the UK for financial crimes. And we both know what happens to pretty young women in Kirikiri maximum security. The threat hung between them like smoke. You set all this up before I even landed. Efua said. The safe house in London. David Whitmore's convenient appearance. The recording of our conversation in the cafe. You've been 3 steps ahead the entire time. 5 steps, actually. Mama Nike's smile was almost maternal. I'm not your enemy, Folasade. I'm your mirror. We're both women who loved men too weak to carry the power we handed them. Who did terrible things in the name of family. Who learned that in Lagos, mercy is just another word for weakness. You murdered my mother. I freed your father from a woman who never understood him. Who wanted him to be respectable when respectability in Nigeria means poverty. Mama Nike's voice hardened. Your mother would have destroyed everything he built with her righteousness. Her charity work, her ethical business nonsense. I gave him permission to be what he really was. A man who took what he wanted and apologized to God on Sundays. And my father? When he grew a conscience. He chose poorly. Chose you over power. Chose principles over survival. Mama Nike shrugged. I gave him every chance to reconsider. But like all weak men, he confused love with wisdom. Efua's phone buzzed. A message from Chukwudi. We lost the case. Judge dismissed all charges against Dorothy Okonkwo, citing procedural errors and inadmissible evidence. I'm sorry. Another message from David Whitmore. My father suffered a stroke this morning. Doctors say he may not make it. Someone tampered with his medication. We're going into deeper hiding. Don't try to contact us. A third message from an unknown number with an attached video. Efua opened it. Mama Rashida. Tied to a chair. Alive but terrified. Behind her, 2 men in masks. The video had no audio, but the message was clear. Those grandchildren I mentioned, Mama Nike said pleasantly. Beautiful kids. The oldest is what, 15? Perfect age for trafficking to European markets. Unless, of course, their grandmother receives a large cash payment to ensure their safety. Which I'm happy to provide, once you're on that plane. Every muscle in Efua's body wanted to lunge across the table. To wrap her hands around this woman's throat and squeeze until the life drained from her calculating eyes. But that's what Mama Nike wanted. Witnesses. A scene. Proof of Folasade's violent instability. You win, Efua said quietly. I always do. Mama Nike stood, smoothing her lace. The jet leaves from the private terminal. Don't be late. And Folasade? In Brazil, try to find happiness. Try to be someone other than your father's daughter. Obsessed with justice that doesn't exist. Try to just be. She walked away, trailing perfume and certainty. Around the lounge, life continued. Businessmen typed on laptops. Families hugged returning relatives. Legos spun on. Efua sat alone with the envelope, the passport, the promise of escape. She thought about her mother. Gentle, principled, dead before 50. About her father, powerful, flawed, murdered for choosing his daughter over his mistress. About Babajide, weak, cruel, now brain-damaged and useless in a hospital bed. And about herself, Folasade Martins, who'd built an empire. Efua Adebayo, who'd survived 4 years as a ghost. Maria Santos, who could disappear into Sao Paulo and never look back. She pulled out her phone. Opened the recording app. Scrolled back through 4 years of audio files. Every conversation with Babajide. Every threat from Mama Nike overheard through thin walls. Every detail of the trafficking operation discussed in the Okonkwo living room while the housemaid served drinks. Then she opened her laptop. The one she'd carried from London. The one with Edmund Whitmore's complete files, DNA evidence, witness testimonies, everything. And she started uploading. Not to the EFCC. Not to the Nigerian police. Not to any authority Mama Nike had compromised. To the internet. To WikiLeaks. To investigative journalists at The Guardian, BBC Africa, Al Jazeera. To every international media outlet that couldn't be bought by a Lagos society woman with blood money. To social media. Every platform simultaneously. Twitter threads, Instagram stories, Facebook posts, TikTok videos. The full story, complete with documents, photos, recordings. Hashtag Mama Nike exposed. Hashtag Justice for Martins. Hashtag Lagos corruption. She tagged the U.S. State Department, Interpol, Amnesty International, Every human rights organization she could find. She tagged Nigerian celebrities, activists, diaspora communities. Everyone who'd ever used their voice to fight power. Then she uploaded the video of Mama Rashida. Not as evidence of her own coercion, but as proof of ongoing human trafficking. With detailed information about Mama Nike's network, routes, contacts. Within 5 minutes, her phone exploded with notifications. Shares, retweets, news alerts. Within 10 minutes, hashtag Mama Nike Exposed was trending in Nigeria. Within 15, CNN International was calling it the biggest corruption scandal in West African history. Efua stood, walked to the lounge window, watched the planes take off and land. Her phone rang. Mama Nike, what have you done? The composure was gone. Pure rage now. I chose, Efua said calmly. Not escape. Not silence. Not survival. I chose to burn it all down. Even if it means burning with it. You stupid girl. Do you know what you've started? They'll investigate everything. Everyone. My connections, yes, but also your father's crimes. Your own involvement. You'll go to prison. Probably, Efua agreed. But you'll be in the cell next to mine. And unlike you, I can sleep at night knowing I chose truth over freedom. She hung up. Through the window, she saw police vehicles racing toward the airport. International news vans. The machinery of justice, slow, imperfect, but finally moving. Her phone buzzed again. Chikwudi, what did you do? We're getting calls from Interpol, FBI, everyone. The case is being reopened at international level. Folasade, you just declared war on the entire corrupt system. Yes, she had. Another message, from David Whitmore. Dad saw the news. He's smiling. Says your father would be proud. Says burn it all. A text from an unknown number. Lagos thanks you. A friend. And finally, from Mama Rashida's phone. The men are gone. We're safe. But child, you're not. Run. Efua didn't run. She walked through the airport. Past security who'd just received alerts. Past travelers who were reading about her on their phones. Past the life she could have had in Brazil. Outside, Lagos waited. Chaotic, corrupt, impossibly beautiful Lagos. Her city. Her mother's city. Her father's city. And now, finally, a city that would know the truth. The police arrested her at the taxi rank. Handcuffs cold on her wrists. Cameras everywhere. Citizen journalists, news crews, everyone documenting the moment. Folasade Martins, the officer said. You're under arrest for. I know what I'm under arrest for, she interrupted, looking directly into the cameras. And I'm prepared to testify. About everything. About everyone. Until every person responsible for my parents' deaths faces justice. Even if it took years. Even if she lost everything again. Even if she never got her life back. Because some things mattered more than survival. Some things mattered more than winning. As they led her to the police van, she passed a newsstand. Every headline screamed variations of the same story. Lagos Queen of Crime exposed. Billionaire's daughter returns from dead to expose corruption empire. The woman who wooed and stay dead. And underneath those headlines, smaller but growing, protests organized. Activists mobilized. People demanding change. One woman couldn't destroy the system. But one woman could light the match. The van door closed. Through the barred window, Efua watched Lagos scroll past. Street vendors, Okada riders, market women, students. All the people Mama Nike had built her empire on. All the people who deserved better than a city run by murderers in designer lace. Her reflection stared back from the dark glass. Still missing her front teeth. Still carrying scars. Still Folasade, still Efua, still every woman she'd been forced to become. But also finally free. Not from consequences. Not from prison. Not from the long legal battle ahead. Free from silence. From complicity. From the weight of protecting monsters. In her pocket, the boarding pass to Brazil crinkled. A life unlived. A different ending. She pulled it out and tore it into pieces, watching them scatter on the van floor like confetti. Some stories didn't end with escape. Some stories ended with a woman standing in the ruins of everything she'd built and burned, saying simply, "I was here. I witnessed. I testified. And I will not be silent. Even if the cost was everything. Even if the war took decades. Even if she never saw the victory." Because her mother had raised her to believe in something more powerful than self-preservation. Justice. And her father, flawed, corrupt, but ultimately choosing his daughter over power, had shown her that redemption was possible. Even for those who'd built empires on blood. Even for those who'd lost their way. Even for a woman with missing teeth and too many scars who refused to stay buried. The van merged into Lagos traffic. Somewhere behind them, Mama Nike was likely booking her own flight, to Dubai, to London, to anywhere her money could still buy protection. But money couldn't buy silence anymore. Not when the truth was trending. Not when the world was watching. Not when a village girl had finally remembered she was a queen. Epilogue. 18 months later. The courtroom in The Hague was nothing like Lagos. No bustling crowds. No generators rumbling. Just cold efficiency and international law. Efua, dental implants finally in place, wearing a simple blue suit, sat in the witness box. Across the room, Mama Nike, extradited after 6 months of legal battles, sat with her defense team. Their eyes met. Mama Nike smiled. That same confident smile. Efua smiled back. And began to testify. 300 pages of evidence. 47 hours of testimony. Names, dates, bank accounts, bodies. Everything. By the time she finished, 12 other women had come forward. Wives, daughters, employees. All with stories of Mama Nike's empire. All ready to speak. The trial would take years. But for the first time since her mother died, Efua slept through the night. Not because justice was guaranteed, but because she'd finally stopped carrying other people's secrets. And sometimes that was enough. She lost her teeth, her name, her life. But she found something more valuable. Her voice. This is for every woman who's ever been told to stay quiet. Who've ever protected someone who hurt them. Who've ever had to destroy themselves to survive. Your story matters. Your truth matters. You matter. Share this if you know a woman who refused to stay buried. Crown.